Um, we have Harel. We wanted to talk about observability for OpenLineage Marquez. I listed the ticket number for the things I was mentioning at the beginning, and happy to go through those. And so, Harel, do you want to start? And also, we have the open discussion. Feel free to, if you're in attendance, to add anything. If you have any question or something, this is a good time to mention. Harel, do you want to go?
Yeah, sure. I mean, I'll be quick. I just want to open up a question to the audience about what kind of, so maybe some preface before that. So OpenLineage observes jobs as they run, right? Like that's a lot of what we do is observing data processing, but at the risk of doing a bit overkill, is like, how do we ensure that we're actually making the right observations and not missing anything, right? So if you're using OpenLineage to power, let's say, a governance use case, you want to make sure that you have pretty good coverage, right? So you're not missing any of the lineage that has been collected from your system. So how do we ensure reliability of lineage collection is one topic that's kind of, I'm just thinking about recently, and I wanted to see from our user base, from the community, what kind of observability would people like to see. So I think in one of the latest releases, we just added to the Airflow integration, right? Like we just added basic stats metrics of like how many OpenLineage events were sent and how many were successfully sent, or how many errors, right? Like, is that enough? Some basic metrics. Are people interested in more things like distributed tracing? Like this can be very big, or this can be very small. So I'm just kind of curious to hear what people are interested here. And by the way, it doesn't have to be right now live. I can also just post this question later on the Slack channel, and we can kind of gather some feedback. So don't feel pressured to speak up now.
You mean the contribution you were saying we added, but you personally contributed adding the metrics for sending events. I think that's a good starting point, right? Like knowing how many events were meant to be sent, and you can compare to how many you received, and have a good metric on whether you drop anything or anything is happening in the reception of events. So that's a good start for me. Yeah. Anything else that people?
Observability on database retention. What do you mean, Harsh?
So currently we have enabled retention policy on all the environments. Everybody were concerned that, okay, say we have jobs, data sets, everything. Say I have a setup for 7 days, right? What are we removing? Like beyond 7 days, what we don't have in terms of meta information. So yeah, observability, that side will help in some way. And then how retention, in fact, helping in memory or CPU performance. Yeah. Yeah, that's what only we have logs in our tracing, but we don't have anything much out there.
Yeah, and that's a great topic, maybe also for the Marquez community meetup. Willie, I don't know if you want to chime in, but like we use Drop Wizard as a web server, so I'm pretty sure we can enable a bunch of metrics out of the box and then instrument a bunch more functions.
We were actually just discussing that. So Willie and I were visiting Asana, who's using Marquez for, and they were particularly interested in. We discussed having metrics on the retention job to know, so how many data sets we have left, what's the oldest data set you have, of these kind of things, right? Like keeping track of metrics of how the data retention job keep the database small or not, right? Depending on how that's configured. So I think that'd be a very interesting topic. That's definitely worthy of a GitHub issue to track what we could add. Really, anything you wanted to say?
Yeah. Julie, I had one question, if this makes sense. Yeah. Can I
Sure.
go now? Okay. I had this question. So if we see the OpenLineage Airflow integration, so whenever a DAG starts, there is an OpenLineage event being emitted which says exclusively that a DAG has started, kind of. So if at all we could do something like that for Spark as well, so that whenever a Spark application starts, we send out an OpenLineage event just to say that this is the start.
Yeah, I actually have some good news for you in that one. Pavel, do you want to take that one actually?
I think there's an issue for that, and there are more and more people interested in that. Because we divide our Spark application into multiple Spark actions and send events per start and complete of each Spark action. But yeah, people would like to know when the whole application, whole job is started and completed. And I don't remember the issue number, but what we need here is some kind of parent run facet, which will tell for each Spark action that it belongs to a bigger entity, which is a Spark application. And the Spark application has to then start, fail, or complete events.
Right.
Yeah, that's the plan, and there are more and more people interested in it. I think Jens also would like to have this.
Thanks, Pavel. Thanks for the explanation. Yeah.
I think maybe if I can add to that, from our perspective, it would be also great to have unique job names for the Spark actions and the parent Spark application, so that we can distinguish each of those and also the runs of those. I think currently they have what is it, different job names but the same run name or something like that. I've been discussing that with Pavel a bit, how we could unify that.
Yeah, so at the moment, the job name is constructed based on the name of the operator or Spark logical node that is the root, and we append a dataset name to it. So it's kind of the concatenation of your variables. And some collisions may occur in the job names, which so far we didn't think it's a huge problem, because yeah, it blurs graph a bit, but we thought that it's more important to have the job name human readable instead of giving UUID to it. But we can make it optional too, because what makes the way we can identify the uniqueness of job is by doing some kind of hash on logical plan. So there are options to make job name unique.
Okay, any more comment on this topic? So I can go over on, and feel free to interrupt and ask more questions as I go on this. So I listed 4 items. I don't intend to go over in the details in each of them, but feel free, if there's one of those that you're interested in going in more details, please interrupt and say so, and we'll go in more details. So last time we had a pretty good discussion about creating an OpenLineage registry for consumers and producers. And so what I've done is writing down and summarizing what we discussed in the Google Doc. So for now, there's a Google Doc that you can see in the issue. And there's a bit of context on why we need a registry and what it's supposed to help, and what's, what the requirements should be validated by CI and so on, and some access control when modifying it. And we discussed two options, and the proposal one was the first proposal, but I think we're leaning towards the second proposal with a self-contained repository. So basically it would just be, in the registry, in the OpenLineage spec as a registry folder, and then organizing around registered entities. And so everybody could have code owners when they could maintain this, and define metadata of what they publish and so on, or consume. I moved to the bottom of the document, the notes, discussion, open items that came up during the meeting last time. And so at this point, I would really encourage everyone to just comment in the doc so that we can converge on what we want to do and get to, and then I'll create a formal proposal document in OpenLineage to actually implement that once we have a good consensus on what we want. So that's where we at for the registry. So it's issue number 2161 in the OpenLineage report. Second item, in the same ID as the, Jakub just presented the get OpenLineage facet, a new optional contract for providers, for Airflow operators, so that each operator can expose their lineage. We're proposing to add optional contract like this to make it more built in dbt and Spark. So in dbt, I actually spoke to the dbt core people, and we agreed that we'd create an issue on dbt itself to discuss this. So I put a proposal for dbt to expose an OpenLineage dataset directly into their manifest file. And so there's been some exchange with the dbt contributors. So it's there if you're curious to give feedback or follow on what's happening. And so that would be one step closer to have OpenLineage built in dbt. On the Spark side of thing, right now, so in Spark, it's similar to the Airflow extractors, right? We have visitors for the logical plan that understand the various scanner operators, basically. So in particular, the Spark integration knows whether it's reading snowflake relation or Hive or Iceberg or Delta or plain files in S3 or GCS or wherever people are storing their data, and knows how to define unique data sets based on this. And so the downside is whenever people use custom data source in Spark that have their own implementation or own abstraction of data, this becomes opaque, of course. And so the idea is to propose an optional contract here. I realized some of the links kind of didn't make it through this, but basically when people can provide the get input dataset or get output dataset on their scans or on the action nodes, and make it an optional contract that if you implement a data source, you can expose the lineage in the relation nodes that goes with it. And so I put this here, and similarly, There's a Google Doc to comment on, like some people have started commenting on. If you have opinion about this, we could do this. I think we could just start prototyping this for some Spark extensions that provide additional metadata and so on. So it's here, it's issue number 2162 on OpenLineage. And the last item that has been mentioned is having a certification process. So this is the least advanced doc right now. But so what I've done is just creating a doc. So for now, it doesn't provide, this doc doesn't have any solution or proposal on how we would do it exactly, but I've started documenting the why, and kind of doing some structure. And thank you, Jens, for commenting on it. And so this is the beginning of a discussion. So, if you have opinions on how this should work, I know some of you on the calls do, please comment on the document, and we can start making a proposal on how we want to do this. So as the OpenLineage ecosystem is growing, we really need to start having more structure about a certification process. How do we know that we're implementing OpenLineage properly? And how do we know that we are producing OpenLineage properly? So right now, there's some elements, right? You have some example facets in the repository you can use to know that you consume it correctly. And you have JSON schema that you're producing valid facets. But it's not, we don't have like a very formalized process for people to say, hey, I've done this, I know it's correct according to this. So that's it. That's what I wanted to just point out, those things. And I think the best way is to go in the document and put your point of view, or feel free to ask questions on Slack as well, and so on. And we can help growing the ecosystem and scale the community as we get more numerous in those calls. Any questions? Or comment, or does this make any sense? Right.
I wanted to say that it makes a lot of sense for the Spark integration to have the dataset support, because this integration is getting orthogonal in many dimensions. Like we're supporting different Spark versions, like we still support Spark 2, 3.1, 3.2, last month they released 3.5. Then when you multiply it by the number of Iceberg versions, and then you multiply it by a number of the Delta versions, which get released per Spark version, then you still have an option to add the BigQuery connector to it, which has also multiple versions. And at the end, the complexity arises, and it's a necessity to do it within the next year or some period.
Yeah, and I think the move of the OpenLineage Airflow integration in Airflow itself is a great example of the goal of OpenLineage is to be just a spec, and instead of having libraries that go and introspect into the internals of those systems, it's just the goal is to just be built in, and it makes everything more reliable. There's a lot less maintenance, there's lots less breakage across versions, and I think it's better for everyone. So that's kind of going toward that way. Now that we achieve this for Airflow, we can keep pushing on Spark and dbt and other Beam, other things that people might be interested in. Okay. Thank you everyone for attending. So please feel welcome to chime in on those things if you have opinions or ask questions in Slack. Yeah, if you have any more questions, this is your last chance for today.